Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Big Bros podcast. My name is Ilan, and I'm joined by my lovely friend and co host, Jeremy. But most importantly, today we are joined by Sally Pearson, an Olympic gold medalist, world champion, one of Australia's most respected sporting figures. After years of chasing the dream of becoming the best in the world, Sally delivered one of the most memorable moments in Australian Olympic history when she won gold in the 100-meter hurdles at London 2012.
Now, Sally's story, it's not just about winning, but about pressure, about sacrifice, competitiveness, injury, resilience, and what it really takes to perform when the whole world is watching. Sally, thank you for joining the Big Rose podcast.
All right, thank you for having me on. It's going to be cool.
We are so thrilled to have you on. And now, look, Sally, people see the gold medal, they hear the name Sally Pearson, they think back to London 2012, they think of that incredible moment which really did shape Australian hurdle history and Olympic history. But what they don't see is the person behind the gold medal necessarily. Now, who was Sally back in 2012?
Depends who you ask, but if you ask me, I think Sally Pearson, the person behind the gold medals, was off the track, a very sort of easygoing person. I would hope to say that I was pretty fun at times, but I suppose when I was at the height of my career, you have these people that know you. You're well known around the city, I suppose, and the country. And so for me, I was very private, and it made it hard to, I guess, make new friends. You always sort of knew who your close friends were. And in that moment, I wasn't ready to make new friends. I just wanted to stick with my circle that I already had. So I was a very private person through that time as well, because I was trying so hard to focus on my training and my competitions, because that's my work, and my work required all of me. So I couldn't necessarily be, I suppose, the person that I really wanted to be while still being Sally Pearson, the athlete. So there's a lot of, levels to that. But I'm starting to see the real Sally Pearson, the person, coming out now.
And what is the real version of you?
Again, there's a lot of layers to that as well, because it depends what situation I'm in. But I'm very social. I love talking to people. I love getting to know a lot of people. I'm very sarcastic, and I always try and tell new people when they meet me, I'm like, look, don't take anything I say seriously, because most of the time I'm just having a laugh. Kind of like a dry humor. Like I don't put on too much facial expression when I'm joking around with people, so they can kind of get a little bit confused. But yeah, I'm very social, very sarcastic, love to have a laugh. That's my personality.
So you mentioned that 2012 and around that time frame where you were competing at the highest level, you couldn't bring out that form of character. Now, we've heard a lot of Olympian sports people, and we see it today, that I think we are trying to showcase a bit more of people's true character behind the athlete nowadays. Do you feel like 2012, which is, 15 or so, 10 plus years ago?
Please don't even go there, mate. Don't.
Sorry. Look,
especially dates and years and how far away things are, or how long ago things were. Out of that conversation.
I'll pull back. I apologize.
People can work it out if they just go on Google if they really want.
But yeah, funny. But yes, but back to that, back in 2012, do you feel like the media more so and the world of athleticism and sport try to peel back those internal layers of who you were and try to really just showcase the athlete, but not the person behind the athlete? Was it down to the media or down to the actual athlete themselves?
Where they wanted to decide to showcase that or not? I think a little bit of both. I think I can only speak for myself, and I wish that I could showcase some more of that personality through those years. And I remember the time that it stopped happening was a long time ago again, in 2006. I was still a teenager, kind of, at the Melbourne Commonwealth Games. And I was in the 100-meter heats, and I remember being in front of 90,000 people in the stadium in Melbourne. And I was waving to the crowd. I was having the best time ever, really enjoying myself. But then I realized I had lost focus on the
Really?
competition itself. And I was scared after that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have just wasted my whole time out here on the track because I'm so busy waving to everybody, enjoying the moment. Not that I'd never enjoyed the moment, but really sort of overtly enjoying the moment, giving the crowd just as much energy back to them as much as they were giving it to me. And I lost focus. I remember from that day on, I was never going to be controlled or never going to lose focus, I suppose, on external things. So, i.e., the crowd. And that's where I started to really sort of become more insular and keeping all of my excitement and all of that personality internally so that I could hold on to that energy and then let it go when I raced. So you probably saw a lot of the times when I was running, I looked quite serious and looked really focused on what I was doing. In actual fact, inside, I was just having a huge dance and a huge party. And you would see more of me express that emotion once I crossed that finish line. You'd see this explosion of energy and excitement because that's what I'd been holding back for so long. So that's when you'd see my emotion. But beforehand, it was all like just hold it inside, allow yourself to hold on to this energy that you can use for your race, which is going to bring out the performance that you need in the moment. So yeah, I don't know whether it's a media thing or whether it's a personal thing. Probably a bit of both. Sometimes I guess the media like to see that emotion or that vulnerability, particularly if you haven't run so well or if you have an injury. They try and really pull that out of you and make you crack a little bit. Um, but maybe they weren't trying to do that. Maybe that was just in my head as well. So I was trying to hold all that back. There's so many funny things that go on in an athlete's head when they're an athlete, and all these theories that you have in your head about the world around you, the people around you, the media that's around you, when really it's not that big a deal. It's not rocket science. You either like want to speak to these people or you don't. You tell them as much as you want, and you don't tell them anything if you want. Like there's so many different, but I just sort of overthought everything and just kind of went inside, locked everything away, and only brought it out when I thought it was safe to do so. And that's generally after a race.
What was that like for you? Because I imagine it would have been a pretty conscious effort each time to bottle everything inside,
Mm.
internalize it, and then let it all out. So I can only imagine the lead ups and the heats and all the training that went up to it. That would have been a very, very challenging time for you, no?
No, I don't think it was very challenging because I was doing what I loved. And so it was a conscious choice that I made myself that, look, I only get a short time at the highest level in my sport. So let's make the most of that. Let's get the results that we want. And so, and I could be the person that I wanted to be away from the track. But it was like when I was working, when I was on that track doing my job, that's when I could have put my game face on, my serious face, and really zoned in on what I had to do. Um, um, it only made it hard, probably more so when I retired, when I was allowed to be more of myself. And it's like, well, who am I? I remember what I used to be before I decided to become this athlete, but how do I get that back? So it's been a bit of a process since then, but just absolutely loving it now, just having that freedom to, and almost a who cares kind of attitude of what people think about you, and just go out there and have fun and enjoy the rest of your life.
I definitely want to get to that where you speak about rediscovering who you are as a person nowadays. But if you were to coach 100-meter hurdles to a current modern day athlete, would you prepare them in the same way that you were prepared?
No, because I'm a different coach than the coaches that I had. So I have a lot of fun with my athletes. I make the sessions fun. I only coach one athlete in person and then one via correspondence. And I really try and keep it lighthearted and enjoyable while we're there so that they can learn, I suppose, to be able to be both the person and the athlete. Like I'm to be honest, I'm not dealing with people that are Olympic champions at the moment. So we can have a little bit more fun and sort of sculpt them in a way that you think is the right fit for them. And I also don't. I also think though in this day and age with the social media, with these podcasts, with the media that there is, and with the I guess the competitive side of trying to get sponsors and get some money, particularly being influencers, there's a huge pull for athletes to want to show more of their personality and what they do away from the sport, so that can attract probably more money as well to be able to fund their sport, their chosen sport they're doing. So it's very different now as it was back then. Like, athletes weren't doing that in the 2012 Olympic Games going on. Well, I certainly wasn't. And there were me that I knew that were going onto social media and showing themselves as a different person.
So when you were at your peak competing in the Olympics, would you say you were happy then, or do you think you were just incredibly driven?
I was definitely happy because I loved my sport. And I think as I got older after, it was a, I def I guess the Olympic cycle from 2008 to 2012 was very different to the Olympic cycle leading into 2008. Very naive, very excited going to the Olympics, your first one, and then you get silver there, and then it's like, okay, how do I win gold? And trying to figure that out. I've never won an Olympic gold medal before, so I don't know how I'm supposed to do that. So the only way was to become that sort of strong, determined athlete that I was, and I certainly loved what I did. There's times that everybody doesn't like their job. And it's just a matter of trying to make that work for you and trying to figure out the best way you possibly can to become that Olympic champion that you want to be. And that was my way of doing that. And definitely don't have any regrets by doing it. And I certainly was happy, but it was a very sort of tense time because it's not easy to be an Olympic champion. It's not easy to win an Olympic gold medal. So everything in my event in particular comes down to all of those fine-tuned moments. Getting everything has to be perfect on your day of competition that you can control, and it's very intense.
How does that play into your psyche? Everything needs to be perfect. What does that actually look like
Yeah.
in that moment when everything needs to be perfect? Like, I can only imagine at least for me, if I was in that position, the anxiety that I would feel by having that mindset. But ultimately, that is the mindset that you have to be the best, right?
Well, we're the only ones out there on the track doing it. We're not behind a team. We don't have people next to us where we can throw a ball to. It's literally just us trying to facing 10 barriers over 100 meters. So it does have to be perfect if you want to win, particularly now well, even when I was competing, anybody who lined up on that start line could have won.
Yeah.
There was no like, oh, she's definitely going to win. It wasn't like a Usain Bolt is going to win and who's going to get second, third, and fourth. It was like, who is going to win this race? Because we were all so close in our times, in our personal bests, and ability as well, mental ability as well as physical. Like my biggest rival, Dawn Harper, who is won in Beijing and then silver in London, she was just as tough as I was, and she wanted it just as much as me, and that showed in the results. So, um, but I think going back to the question of what was that like in terms of the pressure, the anxiety around it all, we were sort of born to do it, I suppose. I started off as an athlete at a very young age, and so you build up that ability to be able to have that mindset, to be able to handle those sort of pressures and that anxiety. Yes, there's lots of cracks every now and then, but you don't sit in those cracks for too long. You bounce out of them pretty quickly and come back to being able to focus and handle the moments. If you told a general public person who's never done elite sport in their life and you put them in that situation, they wouldn't have the skills to be able to cope in those situations. So you tell these people like you guys, you tell you what it's like, and your mind blows, whereas I'm just like, but it's just normal for me because I grew up in that situation and I built those skills over a long period of time to be able to handle that.
It's interesting that you make that point because a lot of the times when we interview athletes or we interview individuals who come from a very pressurized and performance background, a lot of the skills that they talk about is quite transferable. And I'm a huge believer that athletes are one of the best people to talk to about this sort of thing, because they're literally actualizing and embodying the skills that we talk about, whether it's sitting with the anxiety and then in spite of how you're feeling, you still perform to your very best. But I suppose when you are doing your coaching and you are consulting people who are, whether it be in the sporting space or other people or other young people, what is the number one bit of advice that you tend to give if they ask you, how do I handle my anxiety and my worry and my nerves?
It's exactly what I said. It's you're allowed to have those feelings. We're human after all. Like, we're not robots. Yes, we're highly elite level athletes, but we are our basis is a human being, and that's what we have to look after first and foremost. So it's definitely not disregarding those feelings at all, because I think that's where you can get into a lot of trouble, bottling them up, bottling them up every single time that you feel something that's deemed as bad, because there's no bad feelings. It's just what you're feeling. And so it's acknowledging that and going, okay, I feel like this. How do I be okay with it and still be able to get the session done? Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just have to give in to that emotion and go, you know what, I'm packing up for the day and I can't do it. I'll come back the next session and I'll be okay. I just need some time. Sometimes there are moments where you just have to get the session done, so you have to figure it out. And for me, it was just, okay, I've got to go for a walk. Give me 5 minutes. Let me just like sit in this emotion. Let me just understand it, go through it, and see if I can come out the other side better and still get the quality session that I need done, or that competition that I need done, to the best of my ability. And that's all you can do. You can only control the controllables. You can't, anything else outside of that, it's like, well, I've done my best basically with what I've been given for today, whether that's physical, emotional, or mental. You just have to be okay with what you can handle on that day and whatever quality that you can get out on that day.
It's a very matter of fact way of looking at the world, and in my opinion, the best way to look at the world. You know, it's a realistic way to look at the world, just judging the situation by what is. Like what you said there, you're okay to have those emotions. They're not bad emotions. It just is what it is. Those are the emotions that are presenting to you, and you just got to take that in your stride and forget about what else you cannot control. But with
Yeah.
that being said, being such a matter of fact way of looking at the world, going
Mhm.
back to your coaching, going back to Sally, the teenager back in 2006, let's say before 2012, was that always the mindset? Was it so matter of fact, even from such a young age when you first probably started doing little athletics? Was it always so, I guess, stoic and matter of fact, or did that only build up by doing the reps and therefore gaining the
Yeah.
confidence?
I was a very easygoing athlete when I was younger. I didn't have these deep thoughts at all. And I wasn't a very, all the time, most of the time, I wasn't a very anxious person anyway. So, I mean, I was a very sore loser, don't get me wrong. Like, I hated losing. I would chuck a fit over that. Um, but um, going into competitions or going into training, I never overthought anything at the time. At the young ages, I must admit, at the young ages, I loved racing. Competing was my favorite thing to do of all time. So being on the competition track, whether it be like an interclub meet, whether it be the Olympics, whether it be a world champs, anything, whatever level it was, that's where I felt most comfortable. That's where I felt most calmest, because it was quiet. No one was talking to me. I was just there doing my thing. And I'm like, I'm going to race these people. I'm excited. I got that nervous energy going. But for me, it was excited nerves. It wasn't an anxious nerves. It wasn't a scared nerves. It's like, let's just get this on. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. That's the kind of racer that I was. I'm not sure if that's matter of fact or whether that's just a personality trait that I had, that I was very fortunate to have when I was racing. And then I was able to build on that to then make that into a world-class mindset, to be able to win on the big stage.
To get to that world class mindset, what did you have to do to become that version of you? To become
Mm,
the version that does become world class? Does that mean
yeah.
relying on mentors, coaches, changing something in your routine? Like, what does that actually look like?
I think it's just, as you said before, I think you mentioned it, like just doing the steps. So, and it's learning on the job as well. So as I said to you, in 2006, the Commonwealth Games, I learned, okay, well, I love the crowd's energy, but I can't give them my energy. I have to take their energy and use that for my purposes. So learning that was a huge, huge step forward to being a world-class, having a world-class mentality, and handling those sorts of outside pressures. And then realizing, holding on to my competitive streak as well, and not seeing that as a bad thing, and really sort of celebrating it. So I was highly, highly, highly competitive, and I loved racing, hated losing. But I was so I was like, how do I figure out a way to always win and never lose, so I don't have to deal with that disappointment emotion? So luckily, I didn't lose that many times. So when I did lose, I didn't handle it very well, but it didn't matter so much. But yeah, it's just having those experiences on the world stage, learning off watching people. So I watched a lot of athletes. I watched a lot of how the best people in their area did it. Like, how did they walk onto the warm up track when they were warming up? How did they hold themselves? What did they say in interviews? Everything, every little detail was like, how did they do that? I watched Kathy Freeman in 2000 when I was 15, and I was like, I didn't want to be the next Kathy Freeman, but I wanted to do what she did. So it's like, how do you win an Olympic gold medal? What did she do? Like, you ask these questions and you learn that way, and you just pick out the things that work for you. And so I found my ways that worked for me, and I learned how to make them the best that they could be. So it's holding on to my competitive mindset, learning not to basically lose my energy on things that are out of my control, which is the crowd, and having that self-belief that I had from such a young age as well. So when I was 6, I remember being in gymnastics, and our coaches would say, oh, you can be those gladiators on TV. Like, you're strong enough, you're powerful enough, you can take down anybody. So for me, the show The Gladiators in the early 90s was like, they were the best athletes in the world. So I'm like, well, I'm going to be the best athlete in the world. So that self-belief that I had, those are the sorts of things that I built up more and more and more as I got older, and sort of fine-tuned them into creating the Olympic champion.
What does competitiveness against your opponents look like in the world of fast sprinting, like your sport? Because watching your interviews post winning and watching the interviews of others, some of your toughest competitors, like you've mentioned, it seems like there was a lot of almost joy, no matter whether they came second, third, or like yourself, first position. It seemed like there was almost a sense of love, respect, and compassion for one another in the sport, as opposed to what we see maybe in other sports where there's a lot of almost, maybe hatred might not be the right word, but negative energy towards the other opponent. It seemed like you guys really had that love and respect for each other. Is that right in saying so, or was there more to that competitiveness between you three, the big three essentially at that time, and others that we didn't see as spectators?
Look, I wouldn't go as far as love, but we definitely we definitely had the respect for each other. And
Sure.
I think that's because we knew how good we all were against each other, and we knew there wasn't many things that were separating each other from winning as well. And particularly Dawn. So Dawn and I have been racing against each other for a very, very long time, and we knew each other's strengths and we knew each other's weaknesses, and there wasn't much separating that from each other. And we've both said that any time that either one of us had turned up to a competition and we saw each other's names on the list, we're like, right, looks like we're going to have to step our game up a bit today because she's turned up. So we had that respect for one another, that we knew that it was going to bring the best out of ourselves. And that's what racing is all about, is bringing the best out of yourself every single time you step on the track. So yeah, I would definitely say a whole lot of respect for all of my competitors on the world stage.
After 2008, you went out and said, I want to win an Olympic gold. that isn't something that takes little courage. It takes a lot of courage to announce what you actually want, what your dream is. At the time, did it feel like, what did I just say? Or did it give you that sense of empowerment? What was that like for you?
Well, as you know, the Australian culture can be very like, just be humble, don't big note yourself, don't be arrogant, don't say how good you are. And back then it was even more so like that. And that we're not even going back that far really in in those terms. But the culture was very much like we love an underdog all the time. Like you got to be that underdog. And you know what? I couldn't be that anymore. I had to be who I wanted to be, and that was the best in the world. I had to show that 6-year-old Sally that you are going to be the best in the world. And so I had to be brave enough to say that. And I remember working with my psychologist extensively through 2008 in Beijing. And we had the conversation. I said, look, I really, really want to I missed out in 2007. I missed out in the final at the World Championships, and I was devastated, absolutely gutted. And I went to my psychologist in 2008 and said, "Look, I have to make this Olympic final. I want to make this Olympic final. How do we do that? Physically, I know I can. How do I prepare myself for that?" So we worked tirelessly, week after week after week, leading up to those Beijing Games of how we're going to do that. And then she just said, you have to tell the world what you want to do and be okay with that. You have to solidify that by telling everybody. And so I just did. And then I secretly wanted a medal as well, but I wasn't game enough to say that for Beijing because it's like no one's going to believe me and they're going to think I'm cuckoo if I say that out loud. But after proving myself in Beijing, it's like, you know what? Now it's time to step up and be that world champion, be that Olympic champion that you know you can be, that you've always wanted your whole life. And it took a lot of guts. And I said to my psych again, I said, do I just say it and then hide? When you say things, you don't want to hear the repercussions from it. She says, yeah. And you know what? Who cares? They're not the ones going after it. You are. So you should be really proud of yourself. So I was like, all right, I did it. And then I threw the blanket over my head and like, I don't want to see the world anymore. I don't want to see what they have to say. But I said it because I felt it in my bones that I was going to win. I had this knowing about it that I was going to win.
And now more so, is that something that, again, I come back to coaching because I'm so fascinated to know about what you experience and therefore how you would transfer that knowledge onto the next generation of up and coming athletes. Is that something that you would again coach to the next person, to not shy away from the tall poppy syndrome in our country, to not shy away from, the fear of putting yourself out there and attaching a goal to what you believe, but to actually do it, because at the end of the day, it's between you and your dreams. And if it doesn't come to be, it'll probably come to be eventually if you truly believe in it. Is that how you would again coach now?
Yeah, it's funny that you spoke about that because I was just coaching my athlete this morning and we had this conversation and she said she just brought up, what she wants to do and what she wants to achieve. And I said, but you have to deep down believe that. I don't care what goal it is. You do a PB, you want to win nationals, you want to do this, you want to go to the Olympics, whatever that is, you have to feel it and really believe in it. Because if you don't, if you have any slight hesitation about your goal, it's not going to come because you have to fully own it. You're doing all of this physical hard work to become what you want to be. But in your head and in your heart and in your gut, you have to feel it and believe it. You have to, there's no other option other than this goal is going to happen. And that's what you can control. And if you don't have that, it's going to make achieving your goals very hard. Because you'll notice like people are like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. And they'll start it. And they'll get a little bit in. And they're like, no, I can't do it. It's too hard. Or I don't really believe that I want to do it. But that's fine. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to change your mind. You are a human being. I give everyone props to just giving something a go and trying it and go, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. I don't believe that I can do this. fine, at least you had to go, at least you tried it. But if you're going to go all in and you're not going to give up physically, then you have to find a way mentally to 100% believe in what you're doing is going to happen.
You speak about self belief there, but I think of those anxious athletes who probably have enough evidence to suggest that they can achieve what they want, but they're
Mm,
so riddled with that anxiety and they're
yeah.
so in their head. I'd love to know, I guess, in that case, what kind of mental tips and tricks can you
Mm,
do, or can that athlete do to get that self belief? Is it a
yeah.
matter of just simply visualizing 24/7 and getting so clear on what that looks like that it's almost an undeniable fact that they're going to achieve?
Look, I mean, I'm not a psychologist or a doctor to help, but I think they would have to find some skills to be able to deal with that. So, um, allowing those sort of feelings to overtake you, it's almost like they're giving in to those feelings rather than just accepting that they're there, dealing with it, and then um, figuring out a way to get out of that and then move forward. So there's lots of skill based things that they need to learn to do before they can probably move forward. I mean, some people race really well or compete really well under huge stresses like that. They're probably going to age terribly, but in the moment, they sometimes they can probably deal with it and go, you know what, I feel like this. I feel like I'm going to throw up, but I'm still going to do this anyway because I know I can win off this type of energy. But if it's crippling you to the point where you can't perform, but you know you have the ability to, then I would certainly advise to go and get some help and how to deal with those sorts of things, because it's we've probably lost quite a few athletes over the generations because they feel like that and they can't get past it.
And then getting past that on the flip side of actually winning, you spoke your goal, you achieved your goal, something that very few people in the world have been able to do. Is gold medal syndrome a thing?
What does that even mean?
Gold medal. Have you heard the term gold medal syndrome? Where it's a term coined. It's an analogy. Gold medal syndrome meaning that you've won the gold medal. You've achieved the absolute dream, and then
Yeah.
once you achieve the absolute dream, you have this sense of almost emptiness after, and this sense of,
Oh, okay.
oh my goodness, how am I going to back this up to the rest of the world now? That's what they coin gold medal
And
Yeah.
syndrome.
additionally,
Okay.
what else do I strive for now that I've achieved my
Yeah.
dream?
Oh, totally. In a sense, yes, but it didn't. I was only 25 when I won, so I felt like I had so much left in me to go in the sport because I loved my sport. And as I said, my favorite thing was competing. And so for me, I was just like, oh, I'm going to go do another competition. I'm going to go get ready for another year because I love competing. But I must admit, like the winning the gold, um, definitely was more of a relief than anything, rather than excitement or happiness. No matter what you see on TV with my celebration, yes, I was excited and very happy, but afterwards I was just like, oh, okay. Well, thank God that's over. Let's go to the next, Like it wasn't like, I want to live in this moment forever. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. No, it wasn't like that at all.
Is that disappointing that it wasn't a feeling of happiness and it was more so just like a relief?
Yeah, probably because of what happened in Beijing when I won silver. That was just like I was on living in dreamland for months after that because it was the best thing that ever happened to me at the time. Um, yeah, so it was a little bit disappointing because I wanted it to feel like what it felt like in Beijing, and it definitely wasn't anything like that.
So then moving past London,
Mm,
what was the mental state like? Because obviously you've said there you want to back it up, you want to keep competing at the highest
yeah.
level. Did you feel like your mindset and more so the maturity towards the sport shifted? Because no doubt you still absolutely loved the sport, like you
Mm.
mentioned, you loved competitiveness and you loved racing more than anything else. But was there some form of a mental shift as you matured in the sport beyond the age of 25?
No, not in the 2 years probably after, 2.5, 3 years after. I think I became a little bit more stubborn in terms of not listening to myself then, thinking in a way that I'm invincible because, I've won a gold medal and, I'm great. But I didn't listen to my body. I got so many injuries after London. And I just kept breaking down, partially because of my fault, because I wasn't listening to when I had these issues coming up. And it wasn't until like August 2016 when I missed out Rio Olympics because I injured myself leading 7 weeks out, and then quitting and then dropping out of the Olympics. After that, I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to take all that advice that I've been given over the years from many coaches, many people, and that's just take it one step at a time. And if you need a day off, you're allowed to have a day off, like if your body is screaming at you, you don't have to keep going to training when you're hurt, because that's not how you're going to be. That's not how you're going to prolong your career. And so I took that advice and I started coaching myself. And I was like, you know what? I have to be really responsible here, because I've got 3 people at the moment that I have to look after, which is Sally Pearson, the person, Sally Pearson, the athlete, and Sally Pearson, the coach. And I had to do all of that. And so that's when it started to make me really mature in the sport and understand the sport from completely different perspectives.
It's incredible. And one perspective I want to speak about is something that you've actually spoken about on your Instagram, within the context of what we saw at Roland Garros in the tennis, and that is Arina Sabalenka. After Arina Sabalenka lost her match, she was voicing in the press conference how she almost wanted to quit the sport. She was so angry. She wanted to quit the sport. And as we see in Australia, as we see in the media, so many people were quick to give her backlash about that and say, what a horrible attitude. But you voiced up and said, you know what, I actually kind of relate to that. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Of course. I mean, everyone's a different personality. And I feel like when I will watch Arina Sabalenka compete or speak or do a press conference, I'm like, she's like very similar to my personality, very emotional, and probably says things like she's talking to herself, not talking to the whole world. And she wears her heart on her sleeve. So what she's feeling, we're hearing and seeing. And I think we should be really grateful for that. I think in a way that the public should be like, we get to see this really emotional, deep hurt and anguish from this athlete who's pouring her heart out to us, telling us how she really feels. And we're going to like crucify her for that. Like, we should be like, thank you for telling us the truth and telling us how you really feel, rather than putting up a front. I think that's really special. And I remember through my career, like I was a sore loser. I hated losing. So every time I got a loss, it was like the end of the world. I wanted to curl up in a ball and cry my eyes out, put the blanket on me and sit in my cupboard and be depressed for weeks. Like that's where I went. And I look back now, I'm like, God, you're so dramatic. But it's our job, it's our passion, it's our love, it's our life, and we live, breathe it all day, every day. Like, it's all consuming, and so why can't it be emotional? It takes everything of us, and when something like that happens, but we go in for the win. Every time you go to competitions, you go there for the win. They don't happen, you're like, oh God, someone stabbed me in the heart, because this is like, I don't know what's happened. I just lost and it hurts a lot, and you just pour your heart out.
Seeing the emotion that's invested into being a full-time athlete and Olympian, I can understand, although anything but an athlete myself, but I can see from every autobiography I've read to every interview I've listened to, and even speaking to yourself, the amount of emotion that's put on the line. So that's why I think about, like, when Rio was taken away from you and there was that real challenge of injuries, how did you allow yourself to not become bitter and resentful?
I don't think I ever became bitter and resentful. I think I just became sad. I was really sad for a long time, and I had to take 8 weeks off completely. I didn't train one bit at all, and I just went and I sat and I cried, and then I partied, and then I cried, and then I partied. And then, I just went and did everything that was completely opposite to being an elite athlete, because I needed some time. I hadn't had time off since, God, 2006. So that was like 10 years of going at it straight. And I just needed a break. Obviously, my body was screaming at me, my head was screaming at me, and I had to take some time to just go, do I want to do this anymore? Can I do this anymore? I don't even know if I can do this anymore. And like, you're a winner. Can I, if I go back into this, can I win? Like, I don't know. Like, these are the thoughts and the conversations I'm having in my head. And I just allowed them to be, and I just did what I did, and I partied and I cried, and I partied and I cried, and I ate chocolate, and I did it. And eventually I saw the light, and I'm like, okay, all right. We're a year out from the World Championships in 2017. If I am going to train and if I'm going to go to those World Championships, I need to start training today. And how am I going to do that? Who's going to coach me? What am I going to do? Like, can I get to those World Championships? And if I get to those World Championships, can I win those World Championships? And if I can answer all of those, then I'm going to start. And I did. And I said, I think I can get to those world championships. And yes, if I train and everything goes well in my training, I'm going to win those world championships. And I did.
I just from talking to you, Sally, just from seeing the person that you were when I was a 12-year-old watching your race, to me, you always seemed to be that person that had this incredible sense of confidence about you, the way you held yourself, the way you had your chest puffed out, you looked at people in the eye, and you did what you said that you were going to do, which is a prime example today as well, and a prime example in your response. And I truly think it is because you seem to be such a strong believer in yourself, but not belief in the sense of you just shout these affirmations, but belief because you've actually put in the reps and you've built up this confidence by doing the thing time and time again. Was that the mindset that you employed going into 2017 in terms of confidence because you did do it before and you have done it many times in the past?
Look, I think that probably helped, but me being the competitive athlete that I was, that always went in for a win no matter who I was racing against, I think I just had that mentality from a very young age. Like, when I was younger and I went into races and I lost, I was shocked. I'm like, who do you think you are beating me? Like, I didn't have that concept that other people were training too and working just as hard as I was. So, I had 2 years off from the sport, 2015, 2016, through injuries. And at the end of 2016, I'm just like, I'm gonna win. Like, these people are doing really well, but I'm gonna win. Like, I just had this knowing within my ability. I think it's just understanding and respecting and giving yourself some props as to how good you are at what you do. Like, we always try and be like, oh, but they're really good too. I'm like, yeah, who cares about them? You're you. Believe in yourself. At the end of the day, this is a selfish sport. I'm the only one going out. I'm not going out there for them. I'm going out there for me. I want to win. I don't care if they're great, but I'm going to be better. It's having that belief in your ability that you are good when you're prepared. And that's the similarities between like being athletes and doing businesses, doing your podcast, doing this. If you have the preparation and you've done your work, you've done your research, you've done your training, you've done everything that requires of you to be that best person on that day, then why can't you win?
I love that. I love that so much. I think that's the like I asked you the question earlier. It's like, what would you tell an anxious athlete? And I think you don't that anxious athlete who's already doing all that work doesn't necessarily need to do more work. I think they've got the evidence there. I think they just need the self reassurance, and it, kind of what you said there speaks to that. At the same time, going through, I guess, that trough and that period of sadness, and I acknowledge that you said that you didn't become bitter, but I'd love to know, what do you learn about yourself when you do step away from your sport and you can reflect? What was that like for you?
I don't think I really learned anything about myself other than, well, actually, I probably learned the biggest thing about myself, and that is that I can I can do hard things. Like, I can get through these hard moments and still be the same person that I want to be. I do have a voice that is very strong in terms of my opinions do matter as well. So when I decided to coach myself, I was like, like I had a lot of self-doubt that I could actually coach myself. And then when I thought about it, I'm a bit of a deep thinker now, even though I said I wasn't as a kid, but now I had to like really sit back and go, do you believe that you are smart enough to be able to handle this pressure? Like, can you do this? And I actually said to myself, you know what? I don't know because I've never done it before, but let's try. And so stepping into a very vulnerable position that I've never been in before and having a lot of pressure on myself for myself because I was a coach and the athlete, and being able to handle that unknown area, I I was very proud of myself that I was able to do that, because a lot of my times away from being an athlete, I didn't know if I was good enough to do anything else other than run, because I've never really tried. And so stepping into an unknown position as a coach for an Olympic champion going into a world championships who wants to be the world champion, I've never coached that before. But you build the skills over time. You ask the questions from other people that you trust, and you get the answers that you need if you have those questions. And so it's just being brave enough to take that step. And again, as I said before, if it doesn't work out, you can find somebody else. It's like changing your mind. I don't want to be my own coach. I'm going to go find somebody else. That's okay. We're allowed to change our minds. Again, we are human beings. If we don't change our minds, then we're robots, like you're not prepared. We're not like built to go only one way and that's the only way. Like, we are allowed to take side steps.
Sally, before we do wrap up, we love to ask our guests a closing question, and that being a question of what is a sweet spot currently in your life?
And that is 100% my family. I've got 2 young kids at the moment, and I got my husband and I got my dog, and all of that is like, as much as it's a roller coaster, it's the sweet spot that keeps you going, because you do it, everything now you do it for them, because it brings you so much joy. And seeing them get out there and doing their own little sports and having the best laugh that I've ever heard in my life from your kids, it's like, this is what it's all about now. This is my gold medal moment, and it's going to last forever.
That is so beautifully well said. Thank you. Before we do wrap up, though, if people want to follow what you do currently, where is the best place that they can find you?
I do a lot on my Instagram, and if they want to give me any work, I'm on LinkedIn as well. I do a lot of networking on LinkedIn, because I'm sort of going through that life period at the moment where I'm trying to find jobs, and I love the media, and I found a new spark in me for presenting. I love doing that. So I'm definitely hitting up people left, right, and centre to do work. But yeah, I'm learning more about myself now, and that my opinion does matter, and people can hear me. And those are the sorts of things that you've seen on my Instagram, is me speaking out for the first time and having an opinion on things and being okay with that. And if people don't like it, then that's all right. It's just an opinion. It doesn't really matter. You have your opinion, I have my opinion. They might not clash, and I'm like, let's just agree to disagree. Or cool, all right, you agree with me as well, let's be friends. That's that type of thing.
And Sally, as a spectator, as someone who saw that on your Instagram, do more of that, because it's fucking
Oh,
awesome
thank
to
you.
see.
Oh, I'm glad. That actually really boosts me up. Like, this is a whole new world for me, like learning to be on the outside of my sport, figuring out who I am as a person. What am I good at now? Like, just going through those stages of when I was like 10 or 11 and 12, and taking the steps to become the best athlete in the world. I kind of feel like I'm at that now in a whole different realm, and I'm not used to it. And so it's taking those baby steps and falling over but picking myself up again. So it's a whole new cycle of the next Sally Pearson.
Amazing.
We appreciate you sharing that, because yeah, I think it takes quite a bit of vulnerability to admit that as well. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining the Big Bros podcast today.
Thank you so much, guys. Love the chat.